My name Yes.
Aloha.
Good morning.
Yes.
I'm Stardust.
And I'm MadCatMelody.
And you are tuned into Pragma Pod, the all things anime podcast, presented by Pragmatic Aleatory.
Yes. On the previous episode of Pragma Pod, we discussed episodes 6 to 10 of Steins. This week for episode 3 of Pragma Pod, we will be discussing episodes 11 to 15 of Steins.
Woo!
Yes. I'm excited, as you can tell from my voice and Stardust. Woo. So, who wants to start?
I do.
Go for it.
First, I would like to say that this theme song is growing on me, although I still do not prefer the artist. The song itself is growing on me. Even my boyfriend was like, this is pretty catchy. And frankly, I would agree. It's a pretty catchy song, and I recommend it. Also, in the positive notes, I really enjoy that a version of Dr. Pepper is the drink of choice for scientists. This is very encouraging, as I love Dr. Pepper also. And no, this is not a promotion of any kind, but if Dr. Pepper wants to send me Dr. Pepper, then please do so, because I love Dr. Pepper. Specifically Diet Dr. Pepper, which is really hard to find in Japan in case anybody is looking for it. It's really, really hard to find, and you can only order it from Costco.
You know how I feel about Diet Pop?
How do you feel?
AKA soda, for anybody that's like, ooh, you said pop, ooh.
Thank you for doing that voice.
Yeah, if you drink Diet Pop and you're like, you're one of those people like, well, I drink it because it's healthier, you know? Just fucking drink water.
If you say pop, I would like to say that you're pronouncing it entirely incorrectly.
Well, we're from different areas.
How do you pronounce pop?
She's from the Shire.
I'm going to go with the majority of English speakers who say soda.
That's fine. I didn't take a poll, but I don't know. Maybe some people say soda pop. I've heard that a lot too.
Oh, I heard it once from somebody from Minnesota. I was very intrigued.
What do British people call it?
I don't know.
You know, I really wanted to have like a snarky joke, and I'm just too stupid to come up with something on the fly. I'm very disappointed in myself. When you asked that unscripted question, I was like, this is my moment. And I did not rise to the occasion.
You could just come up with the joke and then edit to the joke.
I feel like if you have any integrity, you wouldn't do that.
I feel like you just threw shade at like every other podcast.
That's fine.
Pretty much.
Are you talking about everybody that's like, hey, what's up, guys? Those dudes, what's up, guys? Anyway.
I love the what's up, guys. And it's variants like hello, brains. I like that. What's up, programs?
I don't mind a variety. I mind everybody that says, what's up, guys?
Oh, you specifically don't like guys.
Yeah, because it's what's up. So when you go on YouTube, I feel like if I had to guess, like 80% of the videos start with, hey, what's up, guys?
Yeah, it's a very common English phrase.
And I feel like it's important to separate yourself, especially in such a competitive market. And when you just start with that, I just think it's extremely lazy. But yeah.
What about hello, fellow human beings?
It's different. I don't care as long as it's different.
Oh.
But anyways, episode 11.
Pragmalians. Hey, what's up, Pragmalians?
Please don't make this
I
worse.
like it. Oh, I love it, actually. Can we do that? Can we all be Pragmalians? This is fantastic.
Before we start on episode 11, I do want to say that we are now hiring. Stardust and MadCat are now fired for their stupidity.
You can't get rid of some people. The show cannot exist without them. It cannot go on. I mean, if we were all like Khippe, this would be a really big downer of a show. I just like to say.
That's true.
But somebody has to play the straight man.
Steins is a downer of an anime.
Oh man, I have to say this chunk of episodes is where I really looked at it and I was like, man, I'm excited now. I'm engaged.
Me too.
I'm having fun. I'm entertained.
Yeah, I agree.
Never. All right, let's hop into it. Episode 11. Stardust, you said you wanted to start.
Would you guys like to know the Funimation reviews for episode 11?
Yes.
Okay.
Of course you would. Who wouldn't? They are exhilarating. Quote 1. He's been visited by the bloody head fairy.
Okay.
I was like, I don't know what that means.
It
Fantastic.
sounds like a euphemism for like periods.
What?
Doesn't it? I know. That's a really good one, actually.
Like a bad euphemism because it doesn't make it sound any better.
Yeah, my bloody head fairy is here. Maybe just blood fairy. Anyway, moving on. Why
The red
Second
fairy,
quote.
that's what it should be called.
Are we done?
Yeah.
Second quote is, why hasn't he analyzed the murder and the events of the first episode? That's a good point, actually. Whoever made that comment, I agree with you.
But
Why?
I feel like that's
Why?
an easy answer. It's because he's dumb, right? Like, he forgot about that the day after.
I think they'll return to it. I get the feeling that they will.
Yeah, and he'll be like, oh, I remember this.
Yeah, very well could be. So we have two more comments. The first one is, that Moeka chick is always giving off those creepy vibes. I really don't get it at all.
Everybody in the show gives off creepy vibes.
A little bit, yeah. A little bit. Except Mayuri, but no, a little bit.
She stripped down Luca in behind the... As he's screaming no, she's stripping him down naked.
Yeah, actually, yeah. No, I'm going to retract that. And pretty much everyone in this show is creepy. Okay, so the last one was, there's a shot of a computer with the Maid Cafe logo as the background. So does that mean it exists again, or is this just a continuity error?
I figure that's...
What do you guys think?
Well, I think the idea is that the anime stuff has moved farther away, but that just means they have to go. So it's probably that Maid Cafe just probably exists in the next town over or something.
I wonder.
Maybe not.
Well, those are the opening quotes. Shall we get into it?
Yes.
Who wants to start?
I guess I have a question. My first point is a question. Because the very first thing I remember from this episode, 11, is he's talking, and the main character is talking to the girl, and he's like, you're starting with charm, right? They're strategizing how they're going to distract Mr. Brown because they have to experiment with his TV, right? And so they have this shot, like undershot, looking up at the girl, and it's like a butt shot, kind of.
Yes, thank you. I was like, why is this here?
And what I thought was interesting about it is like random butt shots I'm used to. I'm like, okay, they're just trying to show a butt, right? Or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
But he says, you're starting, because she's like in this pose, like she's about to start running and tackle somebody. And he's like, you're starting with charm, right? And she's like, yeah, of course, can't you tell? And I felt like that can't you tell is kind of like a meta joke where like they're showing you the butt. Can't you tell that I'm starting with charm? I don't know if that was on purpose. What do you think?
It just seemed really out of place, like unnecessary. Like it was the first thing I noticed, and I was like, okay,
Yeah.
But it was like longer than
it definitely doesn't seem like
I don't know.
It would be in
like,
character because there's no camera. Like it's not like she's putting the butt in his face, So it doesn't make much sense.
Yeah, like she's never really been sexualized too much before, but I feel like it started in this episode, and I'm just like, what? Really? What's happening?
I felt like it was just the same awkward, unnecessary fan service. There are definitely people that like that. I don't like it. If you like it, then good for you. But I feel like it was just more of that.
Well, I would be impressed, kind of, because I don't like it. Fan service based random butt shots I could do without. But if they're going to make meta jokes, like that could be interesting. I might be impressed.
So this episode was interesting because we finally learn about their so-called lifter agent, about what makes everything work. And that is, dun dun dun, the TV, the 42-inch TV to be specific.
Yeah.
Which has apparently been super random.
Yeah, it's weird that they injected that into this episode because it seems like a retcon almost where it never mattered before. It wasn't like, oh, why is it only on certain times that it was like this?
Yeah.
And I would have liked to see a part of an episode where they were experimenting, like, oh, let's try it now. And he's like writing down which times it works and doesn't. And then he has the eureka moment, like, oh, this is work hours,
Yeah, like that also did not hit for me as well. I'm glad that you pointed that out, actually, because I was wondering about that. I was like, well, we didn't know there was a discrepancy before in the times.
Yeah.
And can we just talk about the whiteboard? And so I'm reading the Japanese on the whiteboard. I was like, oh, maybe it says something really intelligent. It doesn't. All it says is lifter 42-inch TV, and there is an arrow drawn pointing down from the word microwave to another word that says D-mail. And I was like, that's it. I was like, look at a 5-year-old drew this. And I was like, okay.
I think Go ahead.
No, you go.
You go.
I said you go first, didn't I?
I'm a gentleman, so you go.
I was going to ask because I thought there was a lot of problems throughout these episodes about the science and how quickly people are able to. She's like, oh, maybe if we get like special headphones or whatever, I can create this thing that can transport people's thoughts. And she just does it like the first try.
Yeah.
But I was going to ask, because there's a lot of like unbelievable, crazy super science stuff that happens in anime. Is this more crazy than other anime?
I mean, that's a broad thing.
Yeah,
I mean, yes, it's weird.
I don't know. I feel like it's on par with a lot of other anime that are like really wacky like that.
Yeah, I think it's a lower standard to, and this is going to sound weird, to even this previous show, because he's trying to create a time machine, right? But then what does he do originally? The first thing he does is like create a jelly banana. And that's not what we're trying to do. And then he can send text messages back, right? So it reminds me of Iron Man. I love the portrayal of technology in Iron Man, how the first movie, it was kind of like believable technology, and then slowly got to more and more magical, like, effectiveness. But it feels real because that's how technology works. It creeps so slowly on you that by the time you're doing amazing things, it just seems normal, you know?
Yeah.
Which is why I didn't like
that.
What's her name's science just immediately worked.
Yeah, there was no struggle. Instead, we saw all these other episodes that basically amounted to nothing, and could have been like one episode.
Yeah, they could have been using those episodes for like scientific experimentation.
Yes.
I feel like Steins like in a way kind of prides itself on being a hard science fiction anime, and there
really?
Yeah, I do. There are moments, because we get so many exposés, and I'm sure there are jargon thrown out there that actually are legitimate jargon, but overall, most of it doesn't quite make sense, it seems. So I think I think it flirts with the idea of being hard science fiction.
I think it wants to just sound smart, but it doesn't actually care that it is smart.
I put it the exact same way I did, just in a meaner way.
Oh, okay. I'm becoming you.
Yes.
Well, I did learn that the Japanese word for hippocampus includes the kanji for seahorse, which I'm really interested in, and to find out why that is.
Kind of like instead of hippo, it's seahorse campus.
Yeah, it was. I really want to know if someone could please leave a comment about that. I mean, I guess I'll study it later, but I think that's really cool. So anyway, this is like the first point in the series where I'm just like, oh, this actually might get interesting.
Yeah, action started. We learned who the bad guys are, and you were right. You're the one that said CERN was the bad guy, right?
Was it me? I think it was.
Yeah, I think it was too.
It wasn't me. I said,
process of elimination.
You know, I know what I said, and my thing kind of came true. But we'll talk about that in a couple more episodes.
Well, I think it's so amazing that we made predictions last episode because on my idea, and this episode is the first. This is my own horn. No, to toot. But this is the first episode when things start. So it's kind of like this is the perfect episode before which to have made it predictions.
You know, I think we all had a similar sentiment with this episode. I'm like paying attention to what you guys say, because I always do. And you said this is where things start, and Stardust said more or less like this is where things actually start to happen. And I kind of had the same feeling where it's like this was the first tonal shift that seemed legitimate. Like every other tonal shift was a fake out. And it just went right back to being Steins Gate, which is not a compliment in any way. It made me kind of hopeful for some sort of improvement. It doesn't even have to be drastic. I just was like, something happened. Even if it's still bad, I just hope something happens. I will say, go ahead.
Something happened. Makise and Okabe had a moment when she was talking about her dad and how she is his scientific rival, which I thought was cool.
I wrote about that. I was like, that was the kind of the first scene that was a spark in the series for me, including when Kurisu died in the first episode. Like, I was like, okay, like, and I guess that was more so me being desensitized because I watched a lot of media where it starts off with a death of a main character. But yeah, the scene where she kind of opened up to him, it was the first scene in the series that I thought was actually good. Like, I thought it was written well, I thought it was handled well, and then Rintaro Okabe did absolutely nothing to elevate the emotion of that scene.
No.
As soon as he started talking, it just went right back to being Steins Gate. But
Not a compliment.
when she first started, I was like, this is good. And I know that this series is not going to maintain this level of quality, so I'm just going to cherish it. and I did.
I'm going to be optimistic. I think it's ramped up. I think it's, as long as it doesn't go back to episode 2 levels of boringness, then I feel like, it'll end on a high note.
Yeah, I'm really hopeful at this point, honestly, because these episodes, I was actually being entertained, which is different from before.
I definitely agree that it ramped up. I just don't feel like my opinion on the series is going to change overall, but I definitely will agree with you that, yes, things are ramping up.
Well, I remember you said last time that if it gets good, these episodes, it's still not a good anime because it's more than half of it was trash. So it's just an anime
I hope I didn't say trash. I may have said trash, and I've been trying my best.
You might not have said trash. I feel like in my head, you're always saying trash.
No, I don't. We're speaking about episode 11, and the previous 10 episodes just were not good. If it does have that saving grace where everything comes together and it's like, oh my God, they did this so well. Like, I didn't see this coming, then that's different. But I can assure you that the next 4 episodes that we speak about, I can say that as of right now, I can't consider this overall good anime, but we still have 9 episodes left after, so who knows.
What did you guys think about the animation sequence where it got kind of like artsy?
Oh, where he's running and he's afraid?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I thought that was cool.
Yeah, as soon as that happened, I was like, I wonder what Kip's going to say. I imagine you wouldn't be impressed, but it's what you asked for, kind of.
I also wondered.
I think you imagined correctly. I think the only sequence that I can remember where I was like, wow, that was a good shot is when they were at the park or wherever they were at night talking about her father. It was a shot where they showed like the view from her eyes or his eyes looking up at the moon in the sky. And I was like, wow, that's really good.
Very Final Fantasy VII-esque.
You could say any Final Fantasy or JRPG. They always manage to throw that looking up at the moon shot. Japanese people always have the moon shot, and they always have a beach episode where it's like, let's go to the beach.
Oh man, I can't wait for Steins Gate's beach episode.
I can wait.
Well, you have to, so.
I'm just really thankful for that one scene where she opened up to him, where I was like, thank you, because I believe I said last week, I hope that there's at least something in here.
I think all the characters started to get better in this batch of episodes. There's the thing Stardust asked about, the running scene. I was thinking, my thought, during the opening credits, they have that kind of black and white, everything is moving past you fast kind of thing. And it seemed to be reminiscent of that. I was like, oh, that's what you're doing. You're calling it back to the opening credits. That's kind of cool.
Yeah, that's true, actually. I actually really like the opening credits.
And then immediately after, he busts in on the 2 girls showering together, right?
Oh, yes, I forgot about that.
There's a couple, I have questions about that. Number one.
Was that episode 11 or was that the next episode?
In my notes, I have it as he busts in at episode 11. But it might...
Was it really episode 11? I thought that was later.
Oh, well, it's at the end of episode 11, so maybe it was like a cliffhanger. So I'm curious about, A, their reaction to him busting in. Like, it seemed like an underreaction. And B, was it weird they were showering together?
No. In a Japanese sense, no.
Okay.
In my opinion.
Oh, yeah, no. Not in a Japanese sense.
In America, yeah, it's weird as shit.
True. Yeah, that's true.
Mayuri is like a kid, so I was imagining like her like bathing a kid, like how you might wash a kid.
My boyfriend just glanced at it and he's like, what's with that girl? He talking about Mayuri. Is she like autistic? I was like, I don't think so.
I'm not a doctor, Jim.
No, I think she's just a very typical what? She's just a very typical character archetype. I can't, when you like have seen so many examples of what you're speaking about, but none of them come to mind in the moment that you need them to. Like I've seen so many characters like her. So
I immediately am thinking about Pretty Girl Sammy from back in the day from Tenchi Muyo, but maybe like more one-dimensional than that.
Wow.
This is so awkward that you, not awkward, but bizarre that you brought up Tenchi Muyo because I literally just spoke about it yesterday to a friend.
Really?
I was like, I hated Tenchi Muyo, and the reason why,
That's like some kind of like terrible sin. I love Tenchi Muyo.
it's not a valid reason for hating it, and I fully admit it because I didn't watch it. I only watched like 3 episodes, and I couldn't watch it because you know when you have a friend that's really excited about something and they just won't shut up about it, like they just constantly talk about it every second.
I like
And-
watching stuff
Mhm.
with those friends.
I don't. What he would do was
I know, me too.
he would like so there was like this, I think it was like Kataro or something that they would say, and he would just say that over and over and over like every single day of school. And it got to the point where I was like, I hate Tenchi Muyo, I hate you, I hate the school. So I didn't give Tenchi Muyo the chance. I think I was like, you know what, I'm just gonna watch Outlaw Star instead.
But Outlaw Star didn't have any cat spaceships. Spaceship cats.
Cabots.
Outlaw Star possibly did. Very popular thing to have like the Space Cat girls in the 90s. I remember Candidate for Goddess, which I loved, which is really bad.
Oh man, you're missing it. You're missing. Okay, it's a cat plus a rabbit. It's a cabot, and it's cute and adorable and looks like a stuffed animal, but it's like a rabbit cat. But then it turns into a giant spaceship.
Yeah, like it's her. It's so that she can have her spaceship with her.
Yeah, I'm definitely not gonna watch that.
But it looked
It's
like
so cool.
I would love it if they made a live action version of that where you saw the transformation and it looked like grotesque and like it had to be painful because it would be for a cat to turn into a spaceship. But
Yeah, probably not comfortable at all.
then it forms back and it's just this happy cat. Like it forgot how painful it was being a spaceship.
Yeah.
I think that would be hilarious. Anyway, so Steins Gate.
Episode 12. Things just got really cool for me. I love this opening the most out of all of them. I'm like, this is the anime that I signed up to watch right here in this first
Yes.
opening.
Yeah.
She's like, Mayuri is like this like time detective and seems serious and actually interesting and not vapid and, you know, maybe like something's wrong with her mentally. So this just became so great. Like, did you guys want to say something about it? Like, it's so interesting. Like, she's a time detective, and she's like, I've tracked you down through all these different timelines, and you are the real you, and I am the real me. Like, are the originals? Will they die wherever they are, with only their memories passed down to other incarnations? And I was like, well, that's.
I wrote the most on episode 12. Yo, I'm just hopping into it. Mayuri's death in the episode.
Yes. That's
Oh,
what
you just
we're
went
talking
straight
about.
there.
That's really when the show started, I feel like.
Moeka's betrayal. I want to say I said last week. I don't know if you guys remember.
Yeah, you were the one that was like, she's gonna. Well, I think you said she was gonna be like a god or
I don't think I said God.
something.
I forget what you said, but I think there was something weird about her that you said, and I've said that she's been like something was wrong with her, like she's been mentally damaged, which I still believe.
I'd imagine Moeka's stark behavior and appearance is meant to elicit shock, intensity, and anxiousness, right? You know, she enters the room all dramatic in a noir catsuit, and she had this definitive assured tone, wasn't texting him as usual. Now she can produce words now.
Yeah.
Clearly, I'm the wet blanket of this trio when it comes to Steins Gate. So with all those formalities out the way, those emotional moments did little to elicit a 180-degree turn in my own emotions. Like, I felt the same as I felt before for the most part. Once again, the repetitive Dutch angle shots with the menacing expressions, they would make Dick Dastardly proud. And I don't know if maybe I'm dating myself here, but like Dick Dastardly's that like old cartoon character from Wacky Races and stuff who would like kind of like fiddle with his mustache with the dynamite on the train
It
set.
sounds like a porn.
I guess in 2020, yeah, it probably would. But back then, it was just an American name.
In the simpler times.
I haven't experienced this since like Chris Pine's performance in Z for Zachariah. I don't know if you ever saw Z for Zachariah, but Chris Pine was terrible in that movie. My issue is not that nothing happened, because clearly a lot happened. The predictability of the series doesn't inherently mean that it's lackluster. That adjective can be avoided by a strong performance and charm and many other things. For me, again, Steins Gate just doesn't seem to have those qualities. We had 10 and a half haphazard episodes that were just wasted
Well,
on...
that sounds like you're holding a grudge.
It's not holding a grudge because I'm analyzing. Just because something happened in episode 11 and 12 doesn't mean that the other previous 10 episodes just didn't exist.
Right. So that means it's not necessarily a good anime, but I could say it's a good episode. It's a great episode.
You have to understand that I'm not saying your opinion is wrong. I'm simply giving my opinion. And what I'm saying was those episodes were wasted on character and lifestyle familiarity that did little in the way of creating some sort of bond between the viewer and the characters. You don't have to be like, hey, this character's just like me. But if you don't have any bond at all with any characters in the show, there's a strong chance that you're just not going to like it. And I said that last week. And when Mayuri died, in that scene, the camera angles, the emotion, the Seiyu's voice was meant to show a strong sense, a tone of drama and shock and anxiety. And I didn't feel any of it because I don't care about Mayuri, and I know that he's just gonna keep hopping in time. Like I don't care about these characters.
I feel like Mayuri is not what you would call a three-dimensional character, but they don't call it like kill the three-dimensional character, right? They call it like kick the puppy, right? And I feel like as a puppy, she I thought she was very effective and did her job very well.
Not for me. For me, it didn't go over
because it was cliche.
No, because I felt bad when Rue got killed in the Hunger Games.
Rue dies, motherfucker.
Because in a 5-minute clip that I watched, I built up some type of bond with these characters that I just didn't. Just the writing in Steins Gate just wasn't good enough for me to build anything. I understand that's something, guys. I'm not saying that your opinion for liking this episode is wrong, whether you like it or hate it. I'm not judging for you for that. But what I'm saying is there was nothing that attracted me to these characters.
Yeah.
No, they don't develop any backstory, and that's why no one cares about them.
And just because they had a moment that I liked in episode 12 where she opened up to him, just because there's a moment where an action scene that, to be honest with you, in this episode was not good. Soldier Girl came in kung fu kicking, and these dudes in these masks that just, it didn't do anything.
Well, they didn't really show that fight scene, right? And sometimes that works better than if you had seen the fight scene and it had been less than...
Do you think the choreography or the half-assed choreography in that scene was good?
I could look at it and say that I enjoyed it because it looked like almost a parody of action scenes where, like The Art of War with Wesley Snipes has action scenes that are fun to watch, but also is like ridiculous because why would people move into these positions and poses? And so that's what I saw when she's like down on one knee, pointing the gun upwards, and the other girl's pointing the gun backwards, and she like distracts her, and the girl shoots, and she somehow, after the shot, she moves her head, just slightly out of the way so she doesn't get shot. Like, that's ridiculous, but also similar to a lot of trashy action movies that I've liked in the past. So it struck
You said that you felt like it was a parody. Do you think that the creators intended it to be a parody?
When I saw it, I was like, maybe that's what they're doing. Maybe they're kind of showing you, hey, isn't this like other ridiculous, trashy...
Yes or no question. Do you think that the creators and the writers intended for that sequence to be a parody of other sequences? I want you to think about the characters' facial expressions. I want you to think about the music that was playing. I want you to think about the camera angles. And I want to truly ask you, do you think that they meant that?
Yeah. I think it's just, yes. Because if I look at The Art of War, I gave The Art of War as an example, right? And it's possible that the actors that did Art of War were like, no, this is going to be the best action movie ever. People are going to think these action scenes are so realistic, right? That's possible that they thought that. I feel like it's unlikely. I feel like they were like, this is just going to be fun. And I feel like it's the same way with Steins Gate. I feel like they knew they weren't the greatest at doing action, because obviously that's why they cut out the guys in masks getting clipped, right? But they were like, oh, maybe we can make something that's fun. People will think it's kind of cool and fun. I think that's what they did. Maybe that's what they did, but that's another thing about how, like, The Room, everybody laughs at The Room, and it's like, did they mean to make a terrible movie or not? And at a certain point, like, it's like, well, I enjoyed it, whether they were really bad at doing what they tried to do or really good at doing what they tried to do, and it was just weird what they tried to do. I thought it was enjoyable. It's hard for me to tell what their intention was.
Neither you or I know what their intention was. I'm simply asking, what do you believe in? And I'm telling you what I believe.
Yeah, I don't think they set out to make the most amazing action scene ever.
I don't know if they had the talent to do it.
I think they knew they didn't.
I've seen stuff where they didn't have the talent to do like this, where they didn't have the budget to do this long, choreographed, amazing Cowboy Bebop style fight scene, but they still did something that was good. I think Toradora is a good example of that. Toradora is not an action anime in the least bit, and there was a scene where Taiga fought Ami, and it was amazing. Regardless, it's nice to see something happen.
Yeah, I still wouldn't recommend the series.
I think what it is that because people stuck with it in anticipation of something happening, because something happened, their endorphins are rushing and they're excited.
Maybe.
If you take a deep breath and analyze it as a whole, and you still feel like it's amazing, that's fine. I'm not going to rag on you for that because that's your choice.
There was a moment in this anime that, I'll tell you the anime that I want this to be. I don't know if it's going to end up being that, but I really am holding out because I want it to be this anime. There's a point where Akabe's on the roof and Mayuri goes to see him, and she says something a little bit odd, but something that I think is very foreboding. And she says, the place is getting so crowded, it's kind of goofy for me to still be your hostage, which is a weird thing to say in general. So it's kind of goofy for me to still be your hostage, which gets explained later, but I feel as though it could have been explained before this. So beyond that, so she says this right on the roof, and she says, like, it's getting so crowded, it's kind of goofy for me to still be your hostage. So I'm like, ooh, I wonder if that's foreshadowing, like this foreboding energy that's like coming forward, and like she doesn't need to be there, right? Like he doesn't need her anymore to be there with him because now he has like friends and stuff. And like what I really want from this anime, I really want her to be his imaginary friend in his crazy mind. That's what I really want.
That's the kind of creepiness I could get behind.
Yeah. Please give it to me, Steins Gate. Please give it to me.
But then, yeah, I feel like that would be hard to do, to say.
I mean, if you think that's hard to do, let's just talk about the fact that headphones can map your entire consciousness, and that makes sense.
But she had a scientist's father, so, she's got a head start.
I mean, that's a good pun, first of all. But
I liked it because I've seen time travel movies where they're like, scientifically sending a whole human body through space, even just teleportation as a technology, is so ridiculous in the amounts of energy you would need. But sending information is less ridiculous. And thoughts, memories are just information. So I can appreciate what they're doing, doing time travel through consciousness transference. I like that as a consolation prize to, hey, teleportation is ridiculous. I like that they considered that, or maybe just aped it from some other shows and movies.
Yeah, I love the idea. I just don't like the method.
I don't like how quickly she did it. Like if she did it and the first time somebody just, got a tick where they always had a song stuck in their head. And then the second time they did it, they just forgot, that people wear shoes or something. That would have been a fun series of events, that I could have.
That would be. See, like you should have been one of the writers, because that would have been actually really fun to notice. Like, oh, like what happens when you mess with someone's consciousness?
Yeah,
like little things at first. I mean, because who would volunteer for that? You want to map my whole consciousness and then put it in the past or future and see what happens? No, not particularly. So anyway, episode 13.
Wait.
Really? I didn't think I would get a wait out of you.
Yeah.
There's a point in episode 12 where he's trying to save Mayuri, I believe it was for the second time.
Are you going to mention the bullet train?
No, that was the third time.
Okay.
And he got caught. You remember Moika rolled up in the Rolls Royce and was like, I caught you. And she shot Mayuri again, and she has the gun pointed at him. They all got these guns pointed at him. And then he just fucking ran back it just showed him running back to their apartment and then hopping back in time again.
Mm-hmm.
That's not praiseworthy storytelling. I don't care what they do. It's not. He just magically got away. And I get that they were trying to say like he's gonna keep going back trying to save her and over. But you need to explain how did he get out of that?
Yeah,
scenario?
because eventually it's like, oh, I screwed up this timeline so much that I can't get back to the time machine.
It was no explanation. They literally had this gun pointed at his head. And then the next clip, he's like busting open an apartment door, like, I'll keep going back in time.
Yeah,
no.
like there's no obstacle. Like the people chasing him are like don't exist.
Exactly. Like, no, bro, you just got killed. Like, this is Goosebumps, choose your own destiny, and you didn't pick the right page. You're dead. That's it. So that irked the hell out of me.
Yeah, that's a good criticism. Good catch.
I'm getting to the point where I'm over trying to understand why people love it so much. And it's becoming more and more effortless to simply accept the fact that many people love it. And as of now, I'm not one of the many. And that's okay. It's totally okay on both ends, on their end and my end. I think now that I'm accepting that, it made it easier for me to sit and watch the series. That's all I have to say about episode 12. Just that, especially that one part, man.
Yeah, but those are the kinds of things that people can, if they're in the moment, they can overlook, like plot holes.
No, I think I get what you're saying. Like, you just assume he got out of it, right?
I don't like overlooking those plot holes, but
I don't mind it if it's like been written well consistently over and over, and it showed previous ways of how he escaped.
Yeah, but he doesn't seem very capable.
Yeah, it didn't do that. So it's just bad editing and it's bad directing. It just is, in my opinion.
I agree.
Like, I know I like a lot of animes that people don't like, and it does not make me angry. I don't sit up at night and I'm like, I can't believe they said this was terrible.
That keeps me up.
I truly hope it does.
I wanted to ask. No, you go.
I just got this feeling. I was like, what if it's not okay that someone likes this? What if Khippe is now like the Simon Cowell of anime? And, what he says just goes. And of course, we're going to be the nice judges over here. Yeah. MadCat and I are totally the nice judges.
And useless judges.
Yeah, kind of. But like, we have some great points and some great anime recommendations. But, we're going to like benefit of the doubt everything. Whereas Kip's going to tell you, why you should never have made it to Hollywood. And that's okay. Everyone needs that person.
I don't know if like people that are not on American Idol take his opinion as like the end all be all. I don't think anybody really does.
I think a lot of people do because they want to be mean unless they find someone that they, somebody gets on stage that they really struck a chord with, and then when Simon Cowell says something mean, they're like, oh no, this guy's just being mean. But I think most of the time they're like, well, yeah, Simon says it how it is. That's why I watch this show, because I'm woke.
I think it's really popular to be mean, where it's like a shtick. And this isn't my shtick. I just think Steins Gate isn't very good, right? Like, I'll praise it if it's praiseworthy, and if it's not, I think people shy away from giving constructive criticism.
Do you think...
Go ahead.
Do you think Simon Cowell is being disingenuous when he says a criticism of somebody?
I think that there are times where he's being serious, and I also think he's like Gordon Ramsay, where you have to ham it up for TV. And they're probably a lot nicer in real life than they are on their...
He just hams it up to be more interesting and less boring.
It's what sells. That's what sells.
So maybe if you hammed it up a little, we'd make more money.
Yeah.
Oh no, I'm broke, baby. I ain't got no money.
Nobody's making money. I have a friend.
We would make some money. We need to get on that, okay? Like, just
listen.
If you're gonna be mean, you're gonna have to take it all the way. There's no going back now.
I can smell a motherfucker with money.
That sounds really bad, and I do want to say that you guys sound real desperate right now.
I did want to ask about the bullet train.
Go for it.
Do you remember the kid that's like, hey, look, it's the bullet train? They're looking, him and his mom are looking over. Yeah, she's like, silly kid, bullet train's white, right?
Yeah. Uh-huh.
But they were looking at shadows, weren't they?
Okay.
What?
They were looking down into the water, no?
What?
Well, it's weird to me because that was like, he's running, for Mayuri's life and back and forth. And he runs past the camera, like the camera's following him, and then he runs past the camera. He's off screen, and it holds on this little kid and his mother, so that they can talk about how he's wrong about the color of the bullet train. It seemed like they did that deliberately to tell us something. Am I looking? What did you guys think?
I think they just needed a point of continuity that makes you know the day is repeating, and I think that was part of it.
Oh, well, that's disappointing.
The only note that I made for this episode at all, because it was the same thing, is like she just keeps dying. It's basically just a Final Destination episode.
I was looking too far into it.
Anyway, we can move on to episode 14 if you guys are ready.
we can move on to 14.
So this part was actually one of my favorites because not so much the beginning or anything, but like I really just love the part where, and I'm sure Mad Cat is going to have something to say about this, but he now admits that none of this is real. It is in his head, and he's like, just snap out of it, man. The organization is everything. None of it's real. So I was like, oh, okay. So he always knew he was making it up. Is that where we're going with this?
Actually, when I saw that made me think, oh, his walls are coming down, but that's because he wants to reject reality. So he's going to say everything's unreal at this point just because he doesn't want Mayuri to be dead. You know, I feel like that was weakness, and it also shows that there are like stakes and things that he can't control and things that are outside of himself. He's basically recognizing that by trying to run away from that, right? Because you don't run away from something if it's not there, right?
I see your theory. I will take it into consideration. I think it's a good one.
But I thought, like, I liked it because of Makise, how she because previous to all these other timelines jumps, she's always been like, hey, you're going to tell me about this, right? And hey, you look weird. You're going to tell me about this, right? And hey, I saw your weird look. You're going to tell me about this, right? Mm-hmm. And so this time he finally tells her, and she actually can help because even though she's not going to remember, she gives him information about her, right? So that he can kind of convince her to help in a previous timeline. And I liked that because it shows off her intelligence, and it shows off like he kind of has a superpower, right? He does. And I love when you have characters that have superpowers along characters that don't. And the characters that don't use their intelligence or their whatever they have.
Again. Say again. I dare you. I double dare you, motherfucker. Say one more goddamn time.
To be on par with someone with superpowers, because it kind of shows hope for people. You know, we can change the world even if we don't have superpowers. And so I like that you actually see her being intelligent instead of just scribbling on whiteboards and being like, that's what intelligent people do, you know?
Intelligent people do scribble on whiteboards. You're right. That is exactly what they do. There's a Funimation quote, because I'm going to tell you one of the comments on Funimation, because it brings a lot of joy to me at this point. So thanks, Funimation. I don't know how much longer I'll keep this subscription, but we'll see. It's been very fun as of now.
That sounds like a threat to Funimation.
I'm sorry, Funimation. Wait. If anyone from Funimation is listening, can we just talk about the fact that you do not auto go to the next episode like Netflix? It's really irritating me that I have to look for the next episode on the Funimation search and find other episodes that are in the same series, but they're a different arc, and that's very confusing. So then I have to go to Wikipedia and figure out what episode that I'm on, and then go back to Funimation, search for the proper title of it. Anyway, it's just very terrible.
See,
There's
that's brilliant.
An algorithm for this.
I'll give it a rest.
I think it's brilliant.
Well, thank you. I do hope they change it. It's really frustrating. It doesn't make any sense at all when there's an algorithm that already exists for it, and we call it Netflix, and Hulu is also decent at it. But they had a free 14-day trial, so.
You hear that, Funimation? She's going to go over to Crunchyroll if you don't do something quick. Act fast.
Be careful. Fix your algorithm. It is stupid. Also, Crunchyroll. Bruh. I am now going to come for you because I was a part of Crunchyroll before at some point, and I feel like at the time, I guess maybe it's different now, but at the time they didn't have as many new animes that I wanted them to have, and they didn't have as many subs as I wanted them to have, and I guess maybe it's different now, and I will give them another chance. And also, can, for the love of God, someone get Japanese dramas? I like K-dramas too. I don't speak Korean, so it's not as fun for me. So if someone can get Japanese dramas, I would really appreciate it. In Crunchyroll, if you could do that, I would be really happy, and I would switch away from Funimation immediately. So thank you for...
You're sounding real. Let me speak to the manager right now.
I just have some suggestions.
No, God, please, no.
2 hours later.
Oh my God.
Yeah, motherfucker, you don't talk about the show?
Okay, so Funimation comments. There are only 3. One person says, I am sick of Jackass not telling his friends the story. They are smarter than him. I think we can agree with that.
Yeah, but he's not smart enough to know that.
So other comment, and this is an insight in, I guess, people who have read the visual novel, you will know that there are more details apparently. And I liked this part that someone told me. Mayuri was once sent back to the past and became jelly. And then a photo of her as jelly was sent to Okabe on his phone, which is pretty sick. And I'm honestly sad that we didn't get to see any of this really macabre stuff.
I remember the picture of her as jelly, and I don't understand when that happens.
Is it actually her? I don't remember that.
Yeah, it was her. It was green Mayuri in jelly in a wall, halfway through a wall. I saw that.
Now I'm actually interested. So we obviously missed something. The third comment, I'm sure you'll appreciate this, Kip, because this one's for you. This person says, I appreciate and love this show so much more now that I'm watching it for the second time.
I really don't have much negative to say, only if it's something new that I didn't already address before. That's the silver lining.
All right, MadCat, what do you think about episode 14?
Okay, so episode 14 is when she, if I'm correct, goes to the Moeka and tries to hold her hostage with the space gun, right? The space toy.
I believe so, yeah.
And what I thought was interesting about that scene, a couple things. First of all, I thought that was very like Kip said, bad editing, because it's like they just cut to straight there, right, really close together so that he can use this gun. But also I liked that he used the little toy gun because it's his kind of crazy intelligence, like mad scientist intelligence and bravado and like throw caution to the wind. And then he gets the real gun. So it was actually smart. And then he was like, oh, we need to meet in just us. Right. And he actually seems to have trusted her. But obviously she has people waiting in the back that knocked him out. So like, of course she did.
Right, of course she did.
Yeah, everybody in that scene like acted as I would imagine they should. So I liked that. But also, she does this thing where he's asking her like, oh, just tell me, you know. And she's like, can I text it to you? And what was weird to me was once you see her in the cat suit, I was like, oh, that whole like, I'm too shy to talk, I text was a facade, was a mask. Right? To keep you from thinking she's a spy. But then at the end, when she's like, can I text it to you? It's like, oh, you actually do have this. Like, now I'm confused. You know, like, how do you get to be a super spy, but you have like crippling shyness?
Yeah, she obviously has some kind of social ineptness.
I think they were trying to show like she's ashamed and she likes him and she's trying to, you know, she doesn't want to give him bad news to his face because they've, you know, bonded or something somehow. I don't know.
You think so? I'm a little suspicious of that.
I don't think they actually bonded, but I felt like maybe the creators were trying to tell you that they did.
That's a really interesting comment, actually. It's like, we want you to think this, but none of us actually do. That's great. That is great. There was a quote that I actually liked from this episode. There was three actually that I liked. That they said in this, and I liked one that Makise said when they're at the cafe, and she gave him the information about, you know, herself. That way he would know, or she would know. Yeah, the fork situation. Yeah, and she's like, future me isn't for such a royal ass kicking. And I was like, I have felt that way multiple times.
I talk like that. Yeah, I talk about my past self and my future self, and it's like, oh, you really set me up for failure, past self. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Because it's funny. And I was like, yeah, I've been there. I've definitely been there.
I didn't relate to her in that moment, but you're making me think like I should have. But I'm curious about.
Now you're going to think about it.
Yeah, the second time I watch Steins Gate, I'll really get a kick out of that thing. So my fork and my spoon, what is that?
I don't know. I'm assuming maybe she has like a cute little set of a like pretty fork or pretty spoon, like a tea set or something, but just a fork and a spoon. I mean, I have some favorite forks and spoons too.
Bruh.
Okay.
So there was another part. There was two other quotes that I liked a lot where I think it's the same scene where he says, so wait, your willingness to believe me is proportional to your narcissism.
Yes. I liked that because, like, of course, she's giving him the keys to her brain, basically. And I did like it even later when she's, like, resistant to it. She's like, of course I wouldn't believe you. What are you talking about? That doesn't sound like me. And so it's kind of like showing you how different you can think in different situations. Like, you are wrong a lot about yourself, you know? And I liked that. I thought that was really smart.
I liked that part, too, actually, now that you bring that up. That's
and then there was this moment. I was expecting it to go a certain way, and it didn't exactly go the way that I thought it would, because he's like, oh, you know, you're not believing me, so I gotta pull out the big guns. And it's like, oh, you told me about your fork. you know? And she's like,
oh my God.
yeah, but so I was looking at it because I was trying to figure out if I could see like something I missed, because I was thinking, is this not a fork? Is this a code word for something? You know?
Oh, I see.
It seems like they're telling you like this is important, even though it doesn't make any sense, because it makes some sense. It doesn't make a lot of sense because there was this moment where he's like, oh, she tells him in the past or the future or alternate timeline. She tells him, oh, tell me about my fork and my spoon. So then he goes to the shop and he's like, oh, well, here's the code word. You asked me to tell you about your monogrammed fork. And I thought there was going to be this jokey scene where it's like she doesn't understand what he's talking about because she doesn't actually have a fork. It was a code word. And he just assumed that she meant by that it was monogrammed, you know, even though that's kind of ridiculous because who gets their utensils monogrammed? But apparently some people do. But
I'm gonna be honest and also say I have a pair of chopsticks with my name on them.
Yeah, right. Like you said that and I was like, oh.
Not a spoon though, or a fork.
Not yet, right? Just like her.
Not yeah. I mean, no one's ever asked me, I suppose. You know, okay, I had roommates, all right? So
I'm suspecting that this is going to be some kind of technological device.
You're a smart motherfucker. That's wrong. It's a total fabrication.
That would actually be very cool. I hope that your theory proves to be true because that's actually a much cooler thing.
Not this time. It's a made-up tale. Pure fiction.
I mean, they're bad writers, but are they bad enough to be like a major plot point around just a random fork and a random spoon? She can just, why would somebody say like, I don't have a spoon yet? Like, just, why haven't you just bought a spoon? It doesn't make any sense. And I have like 12 spoons. I don't even know how many spoons I buy because who buys like spoons one at a time?
I'm gonna raise my hand again.
Bruh.
Oh yeah, I'm sorry. You do.
But okay, but there's a reason, because if they're truly beautiful and they're like little tiny Japanese made ice cream spoons. Don't do that. But this is the only scenario. Like I wouldn't buy like a regular like random average American spoon. Like they're, first of all, they're ugly and they always come in a set. Like we don't. Oh my gosh, you guys. So episode 14, right? That's what we're supposed to be talking about. It's episode 14. And so now we've gotten to this point where Makase is finally helping him figure everything out because she's in on it now. And now this actually sounds like a science fiction anime. I get to this point where, right? Like, okay, now this sounds like more like a different anime. And she has all these theories and like what might happen.
Yeah.
And it actually sounds mildly plausible in anime land. So I was thinking at this moment, I'm like, I just might get everything that I wanted from this anime starting with this episode. I'm like, now is the time. Let's go. And now Suzuha, our part-timer, is even there finally.
And I know her name now because I noticed that. I'm learning people's names now because I'm engaged in the story.
Yeah, exactly. Because it didn't really matter before. And I was like, what's her name again? Part-timer? Okay, Suzuha. Yeah. And does anyone want to do her big reveal? Why is she important in this episode?
Okay,
Someone
yeah, she is a resistance fighter from a post-apocalyptic future. And I was thinking that, I mean, obviously it's cliched, but it also makes so much sense why she's like inexplicably badass and serious, right?
Yeah,
and
why she has a nonsense job.
Yeah, and how she got this job too, because I was thinking like, does she do any work? But she apparently, there was time traveling hijinks that led her to be in this moment at this time. So her story is like coming full circle, and there's so many questions about her that are getting answered. And I appreciate that, and I appreciate that she's not just super cool for no reason, like action movies that have people doing martial arts even though they weren't, you know, or action movies are just like, hey, I was in the military, so I can do kung fu. You know, I feel so much better about her, and I feel justified because when we were originally doing like, oh, who's your favorite characters? I liked her because there wasn't very many options in terms of who to like, but I was like, I feel like I made a good choice.
But also, you guys, she's freaking John Teeter.
Oh yeah, yes. Oh yes. And I wrote a note about how I was like, you got me, show. I was so like, and it's good that she is using actual tactics, like changing things. They always say, oh, if you're if you're tall, you want to make yourself look short. If you're short, you know, vice versa. If you have long hair, you want to, you know, when you're getting disguises. And so she goes totally for this like different non-Japanese sounding masculine name, and it worked completely on me.
We got you. This one was invented by a writer.
You know, so I was like, bravo.
I definitely didn't see that coming. I kind of was like, oh, is she like the daughter of Makise? And I mean, that would be fine too, I suppose, but a little bit odd. But yeah, John Teeter, I was like, oh, this makes so much sense. Finally.
Yes, she's John Teeter. And I like that the CERN, when they had Okabe in the car, they were like, you're John Teeter, aren't you? And he's like, what? What are you talking about? And I was thinking he was like, John Teeter is him from the future, so that's why he doesn't know yet.
Right.
But
it was plausible. I was thinking that for a while.
Well, I feel okay because even though I was wrong, CERN was with me. And I like in shows, I feel like in a lot of movies where there's some secret thing, you either have dumb characters or smart characters, where the dumb characters don't know anything and the smart characters can figure everything out. But you have these people that are, the CERN is not a dumb character, I don't consider them, but they're getting stuff wrong because they have imperfect information and it makes sense how they're getting stuff wrong. So I feel not so bad being in the same boat as them.
Right. Can we also just talk about the fact that Kip has been eerily quiet for a while now?
Oh no.
And he might be plotting something very terrible to say. Or maybe he just like fell asleep. I don't know.
Surprise, motherfucker.
Listen, big fella, we ain't got to talk about that. Listen, I'm fully aware, since we've been discussing Steins Gate, that there are literally about 10 minutes at a time where I just go radio silent. And it's because I don't have anything new to add. I don't like the show, and it's known. And when I like something, I talk about it. For
you don't have any opinions on the fork in the spoon.
No. I don't care. I don't care about these characters. I don't care about their problems, and I want them all to die. You know, for episode 14, here's what I thought. I'd probably buy the OST. That's it. That's all I thought about episode 14. Did things happen? Yes. Did they talk about her father? I believe it was episode 14 where he was like, talk to the African-American gentleman. And then I think the episode went off where the dude called them. I just don't care.
I'm gonna circle back to the African-American gentleman.
Oh,
later.
We definitely are.
But one more thing about the part-timer, Suzuha.
Mm-hmm.
She has this device, the device that shows you how separated you are from the main timeline, right?
Yeah, that was cool.
And when you said, oh, it finally seems like a science fiction anime, there's a point where I was like, oh, that's such a ridiculous thing, because she's like, oh, when it reaches more than 1%, then you know you've changed from a significant, you know, your original world line enough that maybe Mayuri is live. And I was like, oh, how convenient that one means it's like they're dumbing it down. But then I thought, oh, when you see devices that measure something, you know, in the world doesn't think of something as like 1% or 1 or, 2 pounds. We calibrate devices so that we can read them in a way that makes sense to us. So maybe it's calibrated to the, and I found myself talking to myself about this conversation. I was like, yeah, this is the kind of conversations I like having with myself. This is why I watch science fiction. To try and explain technologies.
Right, exactly.
I was like, wow.
It makes you think.
It got me. It captured me.
Exactly, I agree with you. It's the kind of stuff that just, it makes you think, and you're like, all right, I'm finally getting what I wanted from this episode, and a little bit from the last one, but mostly just this one. And that one part about her being a time traveler, like Maya being like a super actually interesting character and a time detective. And the last thing that I will say about this episode that I liked was, I forget who said it at the moment now. Maybe it was Suzuha, but someone correct me if I'm wrong, because I don't remember who said it. And it doesn't matter. It's irrelevant. But someone said, human beings are time haunted. And that is so poignant, that human beings are time haunted. If you think about it, that's true.
Yeah, I'm thinking about it.
It's a spooky thing to think about, actually, but it's also the most simple thing. We literally are haunted by time, all of us, every single one of us. And that's such a poignant way to put it. And I was really glad that it was a part of this episode. And yeah, I think that everything that we do is just dictated by time, or how much time we have, or it's either too much time or not enough time. You're bored, or you're excited, or you're looking forward to something. Very rarely in the present, but that's the only time you have, really. but at the same time, it's so infrequent that we're actually in the present, and I think it was created kind of that way because our brains are meant to remember the past, and we are meant to jump into the future to plan to survive. But really, the happiest time is just present. Yeah, we're haunted because we can never really be, because we're always edging closer and closer to death. That's just an interesting way to put it.
When you said we were haunted by time, I was imagining how, we were talking about how you can talk about your future self and you can talk about your past self. And you can also talk about how past generations have affected you. And past civilizations and laws have been written because somebody did something dumb or something. Whereas if you're an animal, like you're probably not going to think about, oh, my great grandfather sat on this tree and peed, right?
Definitely not.
Humans. When you said humans are haunted by time, I was thinking about our past selves. We're haunted by, like, we regret things that we have done. Whereas if you live out in the forest, it's like, I got away from that wolf, no regrets, YOLO, right?
Definitely thought
but
that.
But you're
before.
actually talking about the future, death. Our future selves, our death selves, we're afraid of. And so I guess we're kind of haunted on both sides.
Oh, yeah, definitely. All sides. We're haunted on all sides. And I think he meant it more in the future sense, but I think it's all sides. Past, present, future. It's all got us. It got in every angle we could possibly be. Like, time just has us. Where the hell is Kip?
I'm here, dude. I'm listening.
I'm here, dude.
Would you like to move on to episode 15?
He wants to talk about the African American gentleman.
I don't want to interrupt.
Is it 15 or 14, or is it both?
The next episode would be 15. You've been supposedly speaking about episode 14.
Supposedly.
Yes.
Supposedly. I'll be going off on more tangents.
Maybe I'm confused because there's a part at the end of 15 where he does.
Ooh, I wrote a note. Wait, let me look in my notes because I can show you. Okay, so I have him in 15, right? And the note that I wrote was the English translation versus the subtitles, right? Because he meets this black guy and he's like, oh, you're an African-American gentleman. I better talk differently with you, right?
That was so awkward.
But if you watch the Japanese, it's different. It's a completely different translation to the English, right?
What did they say?
So so in the subtitles, when I was reading it, he'll say, "I am a mad scientist. It is so cool, you son of a bitch," right?
Okay.
Because that's how you speak. Right? But if you watch it in the English translation, the dub, what's interesting about it is instead of just trying to sound cool, he actually goes into this like yo yo yo, like he's rapping, talk.
Yeah, it's like he's trying to rap and put slang in there at the same time, and he's really bad at both, and the whole thing is just really awkward. Yeah, the whole thing, I was just like, did you just say all of that nonsense? Like, really?
Nobody's going to say anything about it.
It's terrible. Who wrote this? Kip, do you have a thing you want to say about who wrote this?
Yes, I think it's important to keep in mind that someone that's listening or watching what you're putting out may walk away thinking, hey, this person didn't like this, but I might like it for the reasons that he didn't like it.
Yeah.
Yeah, could be.
Yeah, I could see having a lot of fun watching that because it's ridiculous.
That was more a comment on why I'm silent. Yeah, episode 15 of Steins Gate. Let's get to it.
Wait, let me go word for what he says in the.
Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
So he says first. He says, "How's it hanging?" Right, and he says, "I'm gonna bust out some questions, yo. So holla at your boy. Word to your mother," he says, right?
Yes, that was it.
You remember now.
Yeah, unfortunately, yes, I remember now.
Which is a lot different from, I was surprised that I liked the Japanese more because he says, "I'm a mad scientist. It is so cool, you son of a bitch."
Okay, Now I'm gonna go back and watch the Japanese and see what they actually say, because now I'm actually curious.
Oh, yeah.
And I'm sure it's equally stupid. Maybe not as cringeworthy. I guess that's what I'm going for. Yep, so we're gonna start at 15 now. So 15 starts, and Suzuha is from the year 2036, which I would just like to say they have overestimated us by so much. There was a quote I liked, though, when Suzuha, a part-timer, she dropped some knowledge bombs on them. Does anyone want to reveal them?
You should.
Okay, so this, I was like, okay, finally. Dear God, finally. We finally get some backstory so that we can actually care more about these characters, which they should have done a long time ago. But okay, fine. Here we finally get, they're throwing us a bone. Like, now at this point, like, that's a big reveal. So Makise Kurisu, she is the mother of time travel, which is really cool. I really enjoyed that. It makes sense. Okabe, clearly he doesn't do anything, but like, he becomes a terrorist or an anti-CERN freedom fighter. But unfortunately, they're both dead by the time that she...
Yeah, he starts a terrorist group, right? And I'm wondering how big this
Yeah.
group is, because I don't imagine a lot of people following him.
No, I wouldn't imagine either. And I also love that, you know, she drops these bombs like, oh yeah, you guys are both dead. And well, okay, I'm leaving now. I just gotta go. That's all I came to do. It's just like,
Yeah, why?
find the computer.
Yeah, I don't know if that was necessary to say. What was the
Yeah, and like,
objective there?
then she tries to leave and then she can't because, surprise, it's broken. And she's like, I can't believe it's broken. And they're like, did crashing into the roof do it?
So this roof that she crashed into, that's the satellite come down, right?
Yeah, I guess so.
I was thinking, like, because originally I was I mean, it makes sense, because originally I was thinking that's not what it would look like if satellites crashed down to Earth, right? But also, we know what satellites look like, and I imagine they don't look like time machines. So I imagine somebody would point out, like, nope, that's not a satellite, you know?
You would think so. You would think so.
Even if the government was like, we don't know what this is, but we don't want to freak people out, so we're going to tell them they're satellites. Like, the internet exists, so that wouldn't work for long, you know?
Yeah. I actually did like that part where Mayuri is trying to help find Suzuha's father, which also doesn't make a whole lot of sense.
Wait, what doesn't make sense?
The fact that Mayuri's like, let's go find Suzuha's father. I'm like, this literally doesn't matter at all. Like, they're trying to like save the world, essentially. And
Mayuri isn't a scientist, right? So they're doing all this science stuff.
Yeah, no.
That she doesn't understand, and time travel stuff that she doesn't understand. So she gives herself busy work so that she can feel like she's helping, which feels very much like a serial TV show, right? Where all the characters conveniently have stuff to do at the same time, right? Even though some people can like fight vampires and some people are just high schoolers, right?
Yes.
So it felt like a regular TV show, which isn't great, but also a step up from what it used to be. So I appreciated that. And I also, what I imagine what you were getting to was the joke about how she like basically frames the father for kidnapping so that she can find him, you know, to cast a wider net with just 4-year-old crayon drawing, you know, flyers. And eventually it comes back and they're like, oh, we got to run from the cops, which I thought was the punchline. Like, oh, you know, you can't just do that, which I thought was clever. Because that makes sense that the police would pay attention to this. Like, we haven't heard about a kidnapping. What is this? So I thought that was the punchline. And then later Makase comes and she's like, hey, I think I found something out. You know, the dad might be a kidnapper. I thought that was stylish comedy right there.
Yes, I actually chuckled quite a bit at that. Like, hey, I don't mean to rain on your parade, but I think your dad might be a kidnapper.
Yeah, it's like classic sitcom close to credits scene.
Yeah, like that was actually funny. Like, it was an unnecessary scene for sure, but it was funny.
I think it was necessary to show them as a team, like the way they work, and it's funny how they're not very good at communicating with each other.
They're the worst team ever. But yeah, like there are some moments where you're like, oh yeah, I'm watching anime. Like it's funny.
Yeah, and I can appreciate that theme of like they're going against like this huge corporation that will one day be a global organization, and they're just some kids, you know, that are disorganized and kind of crazy and obviously horribly perverted. But they all have their little quirks. And how is this group of ragtag youngsters supposed to go up against the big bad suits of the world. I can get behind a show that's about that. It's kind of corny, but that's a show I wouldn't mind watching.
Yeah, I think a lot of people like that concept. Kip, are you still alive?
Don't bother. Your voice can no longer reach him where he is.
Yeah. You guys are going on like 5 hours, man.
That's not true.
I don't mean to be a douchebag, but like...
Well, episode 15 is the last one, right? So
yeah,
wrap it up.
There's I think that was pretty much it. Like the guy with dreads may have found Suzuha's dad, and that is about all that happens.
Oh, and one quick note about last time. I'm going back, way back, to when they were, Ruka changed gender, and, Okabe didn't realize, and like everybody got pissed off at him when he grabbed her pants, right? And it was a weird situation for me because they all seem very creepy and abusive in their own way. Ignorant of how eerily similar that they are to others, and they're very critical of everybody else, right? But what I noticed is like he got hit over the head with a book and had to be tortured mildly because he grabbed this girl's pants. And like I said, Mayuri did worse, way worse earlier, right? When Ruka was a boy, and Makise did worse. Well, not worse, not nearly as worse, but similar when Ruka was a boy. And I'm thinking maybe it wasn't considered so that grievous back when Ruka was a boy. Maybe that's why there was so much anger and hatred when Okabe did what he did, because it was to a girl. Do you think that had something to do with it? I just noticed that as I've been.
Yeah, that could be. And honestly, like we don't even know.
Another thing. Oh my God! And I'm going back again, but not nearly as far, is with the African American gentleman in the Japanese. When they ask him, so you do know something about this, can you tell us about this pin? He speaks poor Japanese, right? And he's like, he's saying words that are weird, but Okabe understands enough to, give him the letter. But in the English translation, without the subtitles, he speaks fine. He's just like, nope, can't help you, sorry. So the portrayal of this seemingly, immigrant, I think is interesting, how differently it can change from the people that made this, who wrote the show, because that's where the subtitles originally come from, to the people that I imagine were a lot more Americanized, influenced, writing this character, made him a different character, Yeah.
I think sometimes they kind of have to do that. Otherwise, like, I think American audiences won't understand.
Well, I thought it was funnier, the Japanese, what they did with the subs, where, and how it sounds and how both these characters are goofy. And also a little less, and I hesitate to use this word, a little less prejudice and like assuming of stereotypes, where Okabe is like, I'm a mad scientist, it's so cool. When he says that, it seems so much more innocent than when he's like, in the English translation, when he's like trying.
Yeah, I agree with you.
So it's weird because I like, on the one hand, what Okabe says in the Japanese translation, but I like what the black guy says in the English translation. Just last points I wanted to get in there.
Yep, those are good points.
And what do you think?
No, God! No, God, please, no! No! No!
Suzu?
No!
Okay, yeah. That's all I was curious about.
That's it. Bye now.
Cheryl.
Bye.
Another thing.
Where the hell is Kip?
Yeah, motherfucker, you don't talk about the show?